2017 is over, but I'm still talking about the movies that were last year. Now, I saw more movies than ever, so I saw more animations than ever, and as you would have seen by the title, you guys would have figured out that I'm going to rank the animation movies of 2017. Now, of course, with any list I do, I have not seen every film out in a year, I have not seen every animation out last year, but I've seen most of them, and most of the mainstream ones, and even some of the smaller ones, but pretty much any large animation film is definitely on this list. So I'm just going to go from 10, and it's exactly 10. Luckily enough, I saw 10 to 1, and just talk about them as any list goes. So let's get in it, starting with number 10, Emoji Movie. This movie was one of my worst movies of the year. I put it on third in my worst of the list, and the worst of the year, and it was just abysmal. It was just really bad, and as far as animations go, and I'm generally a little more lenient with animations, this was just subpar to say the least, a dumb idea that should never have got taken to light, and a movie that I never recommend anyone to see. Moving on to number 6, we have The Boss Baby. Now this movie is a movie it didn't seem like a real idea. I explained with my review when I talked about this movie, it seemed like an idea that was off like a movie in a movie. You know when like they have really shitty movies inside a movie, and like because there's a producer or some shit is one of the characters. This is what it seemed like, and they made it. And honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but it was still pretty bad. I mean, it wasn't one of the worst movies of the year, but as being, as coming in at number 9, it is definitely below where it should be. Moving on to number 8, we have Smurfs: The Lost Village. Now, I'm kind of at a point in this list where none of these movies are really awful, but none of them are that great anymore. There's a few that are pretty good, but this movie was just an average animation movie. It was Smurfs, things we'd seen before, even very recently we'd seen before. Obviously not an animation form, we had seen the 2 live action movies, and I don't think this movie was necessary. I think this movie kind of was just forced out, and yes, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't that great either. It didn't have any predominantly great features about this movie, and very, very forgettable as animations go. Number 7, we have Lego Ninjago movie. This is actually the second Lego movie of this year, and the third Lego movie in, I can't call them a franchise because they are different franchises, but the Lego movies as a whole they're making. This movie wasn't as bad again as I predicted. I thought this movie was actually going to be pretty bad. It was again just average. It was something that just kind of I don't say fell apart, but just kind of fell by the wayside. And I say that a lot when I talk about movies, because some movies do that. They have things doing right and they have things doing wrong, and nothing really works, nothing really clicks that are memorable. And to really make any list, to make a really good movie, it's got to be memorable. It's got to have great memorable parts. And I really don't remember much. I remember a few jokes, but they were the one from the trailer, so they got drilled into me a few times before even seeing the movie. That's pretty much all I have to say. Number 6, Despicable Me 3. Now, I actually had a good part in the list. I think these next 6 films are actually enjoyable movies, whether they're great or just good or just decent is for opinion. But I thought this movie was decent. I thought this movie was a fun time. It was definitely a kids movie. I liked what they did with the villain, having a little 80s incorporated movie, but I think you really can't live up to what number 1 did. I think the first movie, Despicable Me, the first movie of the franchise, obviously, I think that was just so iconic and so clever and new. It's really hard to beat, and I know it's only a few years ago, but I don't think they should. I mean, they're making a shit ton of money, so I understand why they're doing sequels, but I think they don't have to. And I'm not saying this movie shouldn't have been made as it's a bad sequel. It's a decent sequel, but it's obviously not as good as the first or even the second. Moving on to the top 5, coming in at number 5, we have another sequel, Cars 3. Now this movie I was very excited for because I did not really like 2. I was not a huge fan of Cars 2. I really love Cars, whether that because I grew up on it or whatever it may be. I really, really enjoyed the first Cars movie. So when I heard there was a third coming out, I was like, okay, this could be good. And it was decent. It wasn't blow out of the water amazing. It wasn't even great. It was just an average, a slightly above average animation film. And I think this is about the same level as Despicable Me. I don't think it could quite beat what the first one did, and I think the reason I put this one above Despicable Me, I think I have a personal attachment to the franchise, at least to the first movie. As I said, I'm not a huge fan of the second movie, but this movie is good enough to to make some money off, I suppose. Number 4, coming in late in the year, a movie I recently just reviewed and said I had a lot of fun with, Ferdinand. This movie actually surprised the hell out of me. I saw it, I was like, oh, it's going to be a throwaway kids movie, whatever. And then I went and actually watched the movie. I was like, okay, this hits some right notes. Yes, it has some problems with it. And yes, it is definitely a kids comedy and there's definitely shitty jokes in there. But I think it makes for an enjoyable movie. I think you can sit there and you can have a laugh. And you can, get behind this actual, feels they give you. And yeah, again, they do, miss some opportunities, but I don't think that makes for a bad film. I think they actually delivered, thus being in top 4 in my list. I think this movie I had a lot more fun with than I expected. Now, on to the top 3. Number 3, Captain Underpants. I don't remember the subtitle of this film, but this movie was fucking funny. I had a just great time with Captain Underpants. It was just a hell of a lot of fun. I was actually sitting there like, oh, this is really funny. It was really good. I had a lot of laughs, and yes, a lot of, I think, laughs that may have just been for adults and they sneak them in there that I had a lot of laughs with. But I think the story was really good. I grew up on reading these Captain Underpants books, and I got behind the characters and what they were doing. And again, it's an animation, so they're kids films, and they got kids film conventions and elements that all kids film have. But this one actually made me really, really laugh and really, really enjoy this movie. Moving on to number 2, the second best animation film of this year, in my opinion, is Lego Batman Movie. I've already bought the steelbook here. It's behind me somewhere. Maybe you can see it, but it was really good. I think, no, it wasn't as good as the first Lego Movie, and that had a bit to weigh on and a bit behind. But just the Batman element of it made me really enjoy this movie. Obviously, I'm a huge DC fan and huge Batman fan. So, of course, if they gave me a kids movie where I can not take it as seriously as maybe, a DCEU film, and I can just enjoy these characters on the screen and have a lot of fun with, I did. And yeah, it was pretty funny. They definitely missed some jokes, and I wasn't kind of invested like I was in the Lego Movie, but I think they gave us a good enough film, and I wasn't disappointed at all. And I basically got exactly what I was expecting out of Lego Batman Movie. Now, we're on to number 1, the best animation of 2017. I think this is undisputed. I think no one has a problem with me putting this number 1. I don't think anyone can complain. Even if you've seen all these movies, I don't think anyone can say anything other than Coco. Man, this movie was good. Another one that I just watched and just reviewed. It's actually my last review that I've done, and it was good. It was so good. It was just beautiful to watch. Everything they did was awesome. The animations, the characters, the story, even the jokes, they just hit, and they hit some feels here. And I can imagine crying. And then I didn't cry at all, but I can say, okay, I wouldn't say I was tearing up or anything, but I could definitely see myself crying, maybe with a little more touch on it. But it was damn good. This is what animations aspire to be. I think when you talk about Pixar and Disney, they have a very high precipice, I suppose, a very high ceiling of what they can be, and a very high, expectation when it comes to Disney and Pixar, and they nailed it on the head. They killed it with another great movie, and I think we've had a few great animations in recent years, and I think this is definitely the best one of this year. That is it. That is my top 10 best animations of 2017. I think last year was actually a really, really good year of animation. I look back and I was like, oh, we got Moana, we got Zootopia, we got Sing. There's a lot of good movies I'll probably forget because it's not always on the list, but it was a pretty good year last year, and I don't think this year was anywhere as near as good, but definitely had some winners and some losers, as every list does. Thank you guys for watching my list reviews, I suppose you can call them, and as any list I do, especially with recent lists 2017, even 16, I've reviewed most of the movies, especially 17, definitely. Anything on this list and anything on my best and worst lists are reviewed, so if you want to get me expanding on stuff, just click onto my channel and go through the videos, just like that. It's simple stuff. You know what else is simple? Subscribing. It's just a cheap plug there, but you guys can subscribe, you can like, you can comment below what your favorite animation of the year was, or what you thought of the video, whatever you want to talk about, just let me know. I respond 95% of the time, so whatever's cool with you guys is cool with me. Have a good one, guys.